Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, depending on where you're joining us out there in the world. My name is Drew Althofer, Product Manager here at Phaseone, and I am joined by professional landscape and cityscape photographer Paul Reefer, here in fabulous Phaseone headquarters in beautiful downtown Copenhagen, Denmark. Paul, why the heck are you here?
I'm here because we're exploring the new XT camera from you guys.
The new XT camera system.
That you've been building for quite a while.
Quite a while, with a little bit of your help. Thank you for that. And Paul, you're being familiar with the XF camera system, being familiar with the IQ4, helping us in that development cycle of the IQ4 and the development cycle of this XT camera system. You are well familiar with our concept of growing and expanding the camera system. We have what we call the Infinity platform, which is really the hardware, the brains that we build everything on. It's kind of like our operating system, and we have the mentality of constantly updating that operating system.
Yeah, and from a user's point of view, so I'm used to using the XF. I'm used to seeing a feature update every now and then that either adds some new features or tweaks some stuff in a way that's more usable. All of that stuff is now also happening onto this field camera platform. Right. So going from an XF and going onto an XT as a user, this is a really easy transition because every single tool that I was using on the XF is available to me in the XT.
Sure.
So I've got focus peaking, I've got all of the bracketing stuff, I've got the time-lapse functionality on there. All of that stuff, in fact, we've even got the frame averaging on there now.
Yeah.
So new for 2019, we're in the frame averaging world. The same applies to the XT.
Yeah.
So everything I know and love on that platform, I'm just picking up and using on here. The only difference is that I've got a whole range of new lenses that I can play with.
Sure.
And we've got the ability to shift the image around.
And in a simpler, smaller form factor, and you know, precision is key with this for what we intend you to use it for. You're going to push the limits on that, I'm certain. But you know, that development path that we've had for the XF, building new features and new functionality, that's going to continue. Yeah. And that's going to continue where we can focus on studio applications, we can focus on applications where this camera system is a bit more reasonable to use. When we think of this camera system now, by advent of us introducing this new camera system, we now have, you know, two products that sit side by side. This one is intended for field use, for taking out in the field, cityscapes, landscape photography. We can build tools that are specific to this camera's intended application, and we can continue down the path of building tools for this camera's intended application.
And the side-by-side is actually very important because I am not going to switch my workflow from this to this.
Right.
I'm adding an XT into my workflow for the XF. Right. There are still applications where I'm going to use an XF. So if I'm going to want to control multiple strobes, I'm still going to use the integrated stuff that's in the XF system. For a lot of commercial stuff that I do, it's still going to be XF.
Absolutely.
When I'm out there looking for those ultra-wide, the cool landscape stuff with the ultimate in image quality, this one's going to come and play.
Right, that precision, dedicated application of the XT camera system, built for really one thing and to do that thing 110%. That is the XT camera system, and we can continue to develop for those applications. You know, that moment that when you're out in the field and you want the ultimate image quality, that once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to capture the light that exists in front of you, if you want the best image quality, this is your go-to.
And as a buzzword, it's mirrorless.
Oh, wow. That works out. Now, the camera system itself, the form factor is functional. Right? It looks a little funky for a very specific reason. So we have an integrated tripod mount.
I love this thing.
Yeah, so you can mount it on your tripod, switch it over, and now you can shoot portrait mode, landscape mode.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It is pretty good. Cool. Now, beyond that, there's these two little dials here. And those two little dials are providing you movement for the digital back. And the movement is actually repositioning it inside of that image circle. Why do we have that movement, Paul?
Why do we have that movement?
Why do we? What a great question.
If we look at the image circle and what we're referring to on the image circle is the image size, or the size of the image that's projected back into the center in the camera. So if we look at an XF, typically, and actually for most DSLRs and most mirrorless cameras, the image circle is designed to pretty much cover the size of the sensor and no more.
Right.
When we move on to these lenses, the Rodenstock lenses, the image circle that comes out of the back of these things is huge in comparison. So the sensor is only looking at a certain part of that image. What that means is...
The middle.
The middle, normally, unless I change that. So what that means is I've got the ability on this one to shift the image around on that circle. Which means things like when I'm shooting in cities and some of the architecture stuff, if we've got that parallax effect that's happening, we can correct for that. We can actually pull the image down and straighten those lines.
Right.
If I'm off-center and I want to even up a pano, then actually I can shift the image across and get it nice and even without having to worry about keystoning and all that stuff in software later on. So again, keystoning in software is great. You can use it to fix a lot of stuff. And on XF, we're used to doing that.
But when image quality is paramount,
you're losing something by doing it. So in this scenario, we get it right first time in the camera, and you can't do that unless you have an image circle which is bigger than the center size.
Absolutely. So if we have the XT camera system, and let's say we're going to be out there shooting a panoramic stitch with the camera system, well, we can go ahead and we can actually just move that camera or that digital back across the image circle and take a series of shots, then bring them into our post-processing software, stitch them together, and now if we're shooting with an IQ4 150 where it's a 151 megapixel image and we've taken 3 shots, I think conservatively, just to do a pano, you know,
300 megapixel probably.
Sure. So again, the ultimate in image quality, the paramount peak of image quality is going to be available with a system like this. And it is simplified. It is you know, really just it's intuitive, so it's just doing the one thing and doing the one thing 110%, and this is a purpose-built product for those applications.
And actually, so I've used this a little bit. We used it up in Scotland a couple of months ago. I took it up onto a rooftop in Shanghai somehow.
We won't talk about that.
A couple of weeks back.
This is live.
So we've played with these with the systems. And I'll tell you one thing that it does do. I always remember saying, when I went from DSLR into medium format, it slowed me down.
Sure.
In a good way. It stopped me from just going click, 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 and all of a sudden into a thought-based workflow.
Right.
So what am I trying to capture? What are the settings I need? How am I going to best do that? This one, I have to say, slowed me down more in a good way. I have one dial to worry about, focus.
Right.
That's it. If I want to play with shifting the image around, I can, but actually I don't have to. If I want a single shot, I don't need to most of the time. But what it does is, with all of that taken away, with all of the distraction of all of the different features and buttons and everything that you'd normally get on DSLR, I'm focusing on just the image that's coming into the back of that sensor.
You're focusing on the one thing as a photographer. We would
That's
hope
the
that
important
you were
bit.
focusing, right, taking the actual image, the scene in front of you, that moment, experiencing it, and capturing it without any doubt that it is the absolute best in image quality.
And that, to me, was a change.
Yeah.
Because even on XF, we'll give that a try, or we'll change it a little bit, okay, we'll give that a try. And this one is much more of a considered approach. But that's what we're going for.
Sure.
We're walking to some place on top of a mountain because that's the scene I want. This is the light I'm trying to capture. Let's consider it. Let's slow down. Let's get it right in the camera and come out with something that is incomparable out in the marketplace in terms of what the image is.
And by having a system that's so simplified and so dedicated, having these Rodenstock lenses that integrate directly into a simple camera body, small, light, compact camera body, that then again integrates directly into the IQ4, now gives you all of the metadata, all of the information, everything to build off of for further post-processing, further image quality gains, and really just further applications that we haven't even dreamt of yet. So having that integrated camera system opens up all new avenues for the growth of the camera system.
To be honest, the metadata thing, it sounds like a tiny little thing
that
you're passing the metadata through.
Right, what a novel idea.
But the
implications.
The advantage of being able to take that digital back and put it onto a plethora of different platforms is fantastic. But again, because that communication is cut, I've lost all the information about the photograph that I was taking. So I've taught people on workshops, we've taken people out and we've taken some images, we get back down, and because they haven't dialed in the metadata, they're like, what was this?
Right.
What was it FA? Was it F11? Was it F6? I have no idea.
So solving a very simple problem opens up all new
difference.
avenues for the 21st century.
Exactly. And all this, to me, the biggest thing this has brought is the fact that I'm not now trying to coerce something from 1970 to talk to something in 2019.
Right.
What we're actually doing is looking at an integrated system that was designed together from the ground up to communicate, to talk, to deliver the image quality that we expect in one package rather than a Lego kit.
No sacrifices, no corners cut, the ultimate image quality, an intuitive, dedicated camera system that is absolutely going to deliver time and time again.
With a special blue button.
Absolutely. I mean, why not?
Talk to us about the blue button.
If you're going to go, you might as well go all the way. And Paul, thank you for all of your help in developing these products. I mean, it's been a tremendous help, and you've had a lot of time with this camera system. Luckily, you know, you've taken it to Scotland, you've taken it to China, and we're fortunate enough to have a few of your images that you've shot with us to show the audience. We've also had it in the hands of a few other photographers. Ruben Wu, one of our ambassadors, he took it to Bolivia to do one of his fine art pieces, which is absolutely stunning. The images that you see on the computer screen in front of you are absolutely in no way going to do it justice. You know, he prints large, just like you, and standing in front of those prints is nothing short of awe-inspiring. The image quality that we, of course, is a focus of this product absolutely comes through in those images when you see them in the flesh. And so we'll take a look at some of your images, primarily shot with the 23mm.
Yep, so Ruben's were obviously shot with a 32.
Yeah.
Sharp as anything you can get. It is a stunning lens. It's also a stunning picture. They're fantastic. A lot of the stuff that we do is typically more wide than that in terms of field of view. So the 23 for me gives me that.
Yeah.
That's going to be my sort of go-to.
And your subjects might be closer to you than Ruben's out. He was out in the Bolivian desert. Yeah. You were on a rooftop.
So if we go and look at the Scotland image, so in the long exposure guide that we did last month or a couple of months ago.
Right. Little did the audience know it was shot on an XT camera.
Exactly.
System.
That was a surprise no one saw coming.
Nope. Nailed it.
So the image of Nice Point that looks out over towards the lighthouse. Traditionally, actually, to get all that field of view in but still keep it sharp, we'd look at using something like a 35mm round stitch.
Right.
Well, with the 23, I don't need to. So the 23 gives me that image, huge, great big field of view. Everything in it is nice and sharp and detailed all the way out into the distance. I mean, you can't do that with one single lens on XF at that level of quality. It's also using frame averaging, of course.
Absolutely. Why wouldn't we?
We're using exactly the same tools that we started to look at last month on these images. And what that gives us is that long exposure without the need to add filters on the front of the lens. So we're actually in a place of lightening the load even more with this thing, because we don't need those extra tools.
Yeah. And like I said, the image quality, Paul, of your images, nothing short of amazing, and with Ruben's as well. So we'll put them up on the screen now as Paul and I go get a well-deserved coffee break, I think. And enjoy. Thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and we are excited to see what the rest of the photographers out there in the world are going to do with such a fine piece of equipment that we are proud to bring to the market.
And you should be.
Thanks, Paul.
Cool.